Long before the pyramids, before the Nile, and before the Pharaoh, there was only chaos. The ancient Egyptians believed that everything was born from a dark, endless ocean called Nun. There was no earth, sky, or gods, only silence and emptiness. Until something broke that calm, a spark of creation. From the waters of chaos, a primordial hill emerged. From there, the first god was born, Atum. Atum created himself. He had no father or mother. With a single thought, he shaped the first principles of the world. Atum was the creator god, the origin of all that exists. Atum gave birth to Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. With them, breath and dew were born. Then came Geb, god of the earth, and Nut, goddess of the sky. Thus, creation took shape. The sky rose, the earth spread out, and life began to emerge. The Egyptian gods were not mere figures. They were living forces with emotions, passions, and duties. The people respected them deeply. Each god represented a part of the universe: the sun, death, fertility, water, love, order, chaos. Among the most venerated was Ra, the god of the sun. Every day Ra sailed across the sky in a sacred boat, and every night he descended into the underworld to battle Apophis, the serpent of chaos. If Ra lost, the sun would not rise. The world depended on him. Another fundamental god was Osiris. He ruled the underworld and judged the dead. According to legend, he was betrayed and murdered by his brother Seth. But his wife Isis, a symbol of eternal love, revived him and gave birth to Horus, the falcon god and protector of the pharaoh. The struggle between Horus and Seth represented good versus evil. Each story told a lesson. For the Egyptians, the balance of the universe, what they called Ma'at, was sacred. Without Ma'at, everything collapsed. The Nile wouldn't flow, crops would die, the sun wouldn't rise. Ma'at wasn't just an idea, she was a goddess. She represented truth, justice, and the order of the cosmos. The pharaoh, as the representative of the gods on earth, was supposed to protect Ma'at. His duty was to maintain balance, punish evil, and care for the people. Temples were centers of divine energy. They were not just places of prayer. Each temple was believed to house the spirit of a god. Offerings, rituals, and chants were performed there, and the priest was the bridge between the human world and the sacred world. Egyptian mythology was complex and rich. Each city had its own gods and legends, but everyone believed in life after death. Preparing for the afterlife was vital because death wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of a new journey. The Egyptian soul was composed of several parts. The Ka was the life force, the Ba was the personality, and the Ak was the immortal spirit. Upon death, the body had to be preserved so that the soul could live eternally. Thus, the art of embalming was born. The judgment of the soul was both feared and respected. Before Osiris, the deceased's heart was placed on a scale in front of the feather of Ma'at. If the heart was lighter, the soul was pure. If it weighed more, it was devoured by Amit, a half-lion, half-crocodile monster. Funeral rituals were precise. Books like the Book of the Dead taught the magic words to protect the soul. Tombs were miniature temples filled with offerings, amulets, paintings, and hieroglyphics that guided the deceased on their eternal journey. Death wasn't the end. It was the passage to another world, the Duat, the underworld. This place was full of dangers and trials, but if the soul was just, it reached the field of Iaru, a paradise where it could live in peace, farming, sailing, and reuniting with its loved ones. Over time, myths became part of government. Kings began to call themselves pharaohs and claim to be sons of the gods. Thus, religious power became political. The pharaoh was not just a king, he was a living god, mediator between heaven and earth. The first great pharaoh was Nama, also known as Menes. He unified Upper and Lower Egypt around 3100 BC. With him, the first empire was born. The capital was Memphis. From there, an era of prosperity, construction, and culture began that would last for millennia. Ancient Egypt was divided into three major periods: the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, and the New Kingdom. Between each period, there were periods of crisis and invasion. but they always revived. Art, architecture, science, and religion flourished with each new dynasty. The first pyramids were built during the Old Kingdom. These gigantic tombs were more than monuments. They were portals to the afterlife. The most famous are those at Giza, built for the pharaohs Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. Their mystery lives on today. The pyramids were aligned with the stars and the cycles of the sun. Everything about their construction had a sacred meaning. They weren't just tombs. They were spiritual machines, elevating the pharaoh's soul to the heavens. They were symbols of cosmic order and eternal power. Thousands of workers lived for years near the pyramids, not as slaves but as skilled laborers. They received food, water, and medical care. The construction of these colossi was a national act, driven by faith, engineering, and divine power. Life in ancient Egypt revolved around the Nile. Every year the river flooded, leaving fertile lands. The Egyptians called their land Kemet, the Black Land, because of the color of its silt. Without the Nile, Egypt would not have existed. It was their source of life. Farmers grew wheat, barley, lentils, and flax. They used simple tools, but knew when to sow and when to harvest thanks to the solar calendar. This calendar had 365 days, divided into 12 months. It was one of the first in history. Egyptian children learned from a young age. The children of peasants helped in the fields, but the children of scribes, nobles, and priests went to school where they learned to read and write hieroglyphics. Education was key to rising in society. Egyptian writing came in 3 forms: hieroglyphic, hieratic, and demotic. Hieroglyphics were used in temples and tombs. They were sacred symbols. Only scribes mastered these scripts, which gave them power and prestige. Writing was a divine art. The Egyptians also advanced in science. They knew anatomy, performed simple operations, and used medicinal plants. They knew geometry, observed the stars, and created great structures without modern machinery. Their knowledge was impressive. Religion continued to guide life. Every house had an altar to household gods. Large temples were maintained by hundreds of people: priests, musicians, cooks, gardeners. It was a world unto itself, where each person fulfilled a sacred function. After centuries of splendor, the Old Kingdom fell due to drought, corruption, and internal strife. Egypt entered a dark period, but with the passage of time, it rose again with strength. Thus began the Middle Kingdom, around 2050 BC, with new kings and order. The Middle Kingdom strengthened the country. Agriculture improved, canals were built, and borders expanded. Literature flourished. Texts such as The Tale of the Eloquent Peasant demonstrated the importance of justice and popular wisdom. During this period, pharaohs began to be buried in rock-cut tombs, especially in Thebes. This site would later become the famous Valley of the Kings. The pyramids faded into the background, but the devotion remained intact. The Middle Kingdom also faced external threats. Nomadic groups such as the Hyksos began to push against the borders of the Nile Delta. Gradually, these invaders took control of the north, marking the end of an era and the beginning of new challenges. The Hyksos were people from Western Asia who invaded the Nile Delta. They had horses and war chariots, something new for the Egyptians. For over 100 years, they controlled northern Egypt. They didn't destroy the culture, however. They adopted parts of it. In the south, the Egyptians did not surrender. From Thebes, local kings began a slow struggle to reclaim their land. One of them, Sekenenre-Ta, died in battle. His son Kamose continued the fight, and his grandson, Ahmose I, finally expelled the Hyksos. With the victory of Ahmose I, the new kingdom was born, Egypt's most powerful era. It began a period of expansion, trade, great construction, and military power. Egypt became an empire that dominated from Nubia to Syria. One of the most notable pharaohs was Hatshepsut, a woman who ruled as a pharaoh. She dressed like a man with a false beard. Under her reign, Egypt experienced an era of peace and trade. She built impressive temples, such as the one at Deir el-Bahari. Then came Thutmose III, known as the Egyptian Napoleon. He was a great conqueror. He led the Egyptian armies to the Euphrates and consolidated the empire. His reign was long and stable. Under him, Egypt reached its greatest military power. But then came a pharaoh who changed everything, Akhenaten. He banned the worship of the old gods and ordered worship of only Aten, the sun disk. He closed temples, broke traditions, and moved the capital to a new city, Akhetaten. He was a revolutionary pharaoh. The people did not accept these changes. After Akhenaten's death, everything was restored. His son, the young Tutankhamun, restored the worship of the traditional gods. He died very young, but his tomb would be found intact centuries later, astonishing the modern world. Then came Ramses II, known as the Great. He reigned for more than 60 years. He built colossal temples like Abu Simbel, waged military campaigns, and signed the first peace treaty in history with the Hittites. He was a strong, ambitious, and much-loved pharaoh. Ramses II had dozens of wives and children. He had his image sculpted throughout Egypt. His name was engraved on obelisks, statues, and temples. Even centuries later, the Egyptians continued to speak of him as the great pharaoh par excellence. The new kingdom was Egypt's golden age. Its art, religion, science, and political power shone like never before. But ambition, wars, and betrayals would begin to weaken it. Egyptian history still had great chapters to write. After Ramses II, the power of the pharaohs began to weaken. Their successors lacked their strength and charisma. The empire gradually lost territory and wealth. The priests of Amun gained more power than the pharaoh himself. Egypt slowly fragmented. Difficult times arrived. Libyans, Nubians, and sea peoples attacked the borders. The climate changed, harvests failed, the people suffered, and the temples were no longer enough to calm the chaos. The new kingdom fell. Egypt entered a new crisis. For centuries, Egypt was ruled by foreigners, Libyans, Ethiopians, and then the Assyrians, who invaded with brutality. They burned temples and sacked cities. The splendor of the pyramids seemed a thing of the past, but Egypt did not disappear. The Persians conquered Egypt in 525 BC. They made it a province of their empire. Although they respected Egyptian customs, the pharaoh was no longer free. Egypt was part of something larger, and its former glory was slowly fading. But in 332 BC, a new conqueror changed history, Alexander the Great. He entered Egypt without a fight. He was greeted as a liberator. He was crowned pharaoh and declared that the god Amun had chosen him. He founded a city that would bear his name, Alexandria. With Alexander, the Greco-Roman era began. After his death, his general Ptolemy took control of Egypt and founded the Ptolemaic dynasty. These new kings were Greek, but they ruled as pharaohs and adopted many Egyptian customs. Alexandria became a brilliant city. The Great Library, one of the most important centers of knowledge in history, was built there. The pharaoh's lighthouse, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, was also erected. Egypt shone once again. The Ptolemies ruled for centuries. One of the most famous was Ptolemy II, who promoted culture, science, and trade. Books from all over the ancient world were translated. Egypt was now a bridge between East and West. The last queen of Egypt was Cleopatra VII. Intelligent, charismatic, and politically charged, she confronted Rome to defend her throne. She allied herself with Julius Caesar, then with Mark Antony, but lost to Octavian. Her defeat marked the end of Egypt as an independent kingdom. In 30 BC, after Cleopatra's death, Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire. There would be no more pharaohs, but their legacy, their temples, their language, and their gods would live on in the world's memory for thousands of years to come. With the arrival of Rome, Egypt lost its independence completely. It became a province of the empire. The Roman emperors called themselves pharaohs, but the true power no longer lay on the Nile. It lay in Rome. Under Roman rule, Egypt was exploited as a source of wheat. Its riches were extracted and brought to the empire. Many temples were abandoned. Egyptian culture began to blend with Greek and Roman culture, and the ancient gods were gradually forgotten. But something new was born: Christianity. It spread rapidly throughout Egypt, especially among the poorest. A new community emerged, the Coptic Christians. Persecuted at first, they endured for centuries and left a deep cultural mark. Egypt was transformed. The ancient temples were closed. Hieroglyphics fell into disuse. In the 4th century, the Temple of Philae, dedicated to the goddess Isis, was closed. It was the end of the era of the Egyptian gods. A new faith dominated the land of the Nile. In the 7th century, Muslim Arabs arrived. They conquered Egypt in 641 AD. They brought a new religion, Islam. Arabic replaced Coptic as the main language. Mosques were built, and Cairo became a great Islamic capital. For centuries, Egypt was part of several Islamic empires, the Umayyad Caliphate, the Abbasids, the Fatimids, and the Mamluks. Cairo was filled with science, art, commerce, and culture. It was a jewel of the Islamic world, but its power would not last forever. In 1517, the Ottoman Empire took control of Egypt. Although the Ottomans respected the local culture, the country no longer had autonomy. Egypt remained under foreign administration for more than 3 centuries, losing international prominence. In 1798, Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Egypt. Although his military campaign failed, it sparked European interest in Egyptian history. It was then that major archaeological excavations and discoveries began. At the beginning of the 19th century, Muhammad Ali, an Albanian military leader serving in the Ottoman Empire, took control of the country. He modernized Egypt, creating schools, factories, and an army. He is considered the founder of modern Egypt. During the 19th century, Egypt built the Suez Canal, a monumental project that connected the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. It revolutionized global trade, but it also brought new foreign ambitions to Egyptian territory. In 1882, the United Kingdom occupied Egypt. Although it remained part of the Ottoman Empire on paper, in practice it was a British colony. The British controlled the Suez Canal, the army, and the economy. The Egyptian people were beginning to dream of freedom. During World War I, Egypt was officially declared a British protectorate. Nationalism grew. Thousands of Egyptians protested for independence. The 1919 revolution was a massive cry for freedom. In 1922, Egypt achieved a measure of independence. It became a kingdom, albeit under British influence. That same year, something happened that would change history. Archaeologist Howard Carter discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun, undisturbed for more than 3,000 years. The discovery of Tutankhamun caused a worldwide stir. Thousands of objects, jewels, thrones, and the famous golden mask revealed the splendor of ancient Egypt. The world rediscovered a forgotten civilization. Egypt once again shone in history. During the following decades, Egypt experienced political turmoil. In 1952, a military revolution overthrew King Farouk. The leader of this revolution was Gamal Abdel Nasser, who abolished the monarchy and turned Egypt into a republic. Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal in 1956, defying France, the United Kingdom, and Israel. An international crisis erupted, but the Egyptian people supported him. Nasser became a symbol of Arab pride and independence in the post-colonial world. Egypt entered a period of modernization and reform. Although there were conflicts with Israel in the wars of 1967 and 1973, Egypt signed a peace treaty in 1979. It was the first Arab country to do so. President Sadat was key, but he was later assassinated by extremists. Today, Egypt is a modern republic with a millennia-old heritage. Its capital, Cairo, is a vibrant city. Mosques, churches, and skyscrapers coexist on the banks of the Nile. And not far away, the pyramids continue to defy time and the desert. Tourism, archaeology, and cultural pride have made ancient Egypt a source of national identity. The country has recovered many stolen artifacts. New museums are being built. The stories of the pharaohs are being retold around the world. From primordial chaos to modern social media, Egypt has undergone a unique journey. It has fallen, risen, and left an immortal mark on human history. But there is still much to tell and to discover beneath its sacred sands. The ancient Egyptians didn't just build temples and pyramids, they were also scientists. They observed the stars, created calendars, and knew how to predict the seasons. Their astronomy was so precise that it inspired later civilizations. In medicine, they performed surgeries, treated fractures, and knew the pulse. They had hundreds of natural remedies. They used honey to heal wounds, and garlic was considered a sacred medicine. Their knowledge was recorded in medical papyri, such as the Ebers papyri. Their architecture continues to amaze. The pyramids, made from millions of stone blocks, were aligned with the stars. No one knows for sure how they were built. Some theories speak of ramps, pulleys, and an incredible social organization. Egyptian art was both symbolic and functional. Tomb paintings weren't decorative, they were guides to the afterlife. Colors had meaning. Blue represented the sky, green, life. Everything was filled with spiritual and eternal meaning. The Temple of Karnak, the Valley of the Kings, Abu Simbel, Luxor. Each monument is a testament to their greatness. Many were built to last thousands of years, and they succeeded. Even today they stand in the desert, reminding us of what they were capable of. The Egyptians invented papyrus, the ancestor of paper. Thanks to it, they were able to write laws, histories, magic formulas, and poetry. Egyptian literature spoke of love, duty, human suffering, and also of the desire to achieve eternity. They created an advanced bureaucracy. There were tax collectors, canal inspectors, royal scribes, and advisors. The entire system was based on order, mat. Chaos was its greatest enemy, and the entire society worked to maintain balance. The concept of eternity was fundamental. They not only wanted to live well on earth, but also to continue existing after death. That's why they built tombs, wore amulets, recited prayers, and took care of every detail of the funeral. Eternity was a right. The figure of the pharaoh concentrated political, military, and religious power. He was not just a king, he was the son of the gods, the protector of the Nile, and the intermediary between heaven and earth. His name was written in a cartouche, a symbol of eternity and protection. Although many dynasties were forgotten, the names of some pharaohs still resonate. Khufu, Ramses, Hatshepsut, Akhenaten, Cleopatra. Each left traces in stone, papyrus, or legend, and today, thanks to history, they have been brought back to life. Egypt is not just history, it is a symbol of eternity, wisdom, and human power. Its temples still withstand the desert wind, its gods still live in art, its secrets still sleep beneath the sand, and its spirit lives on in every heart that dreams of discovering, learning, and leaving its mark. Because Egypt, though ancient, has never ceased to be eternal.